Hello, we are going to try and paint a tree really quickly. I have two pictures of trees right here. One of them is kind of creepy and really sad looking kind of tree, and the other one is a more luxurious kind of rich kind of awesome tree. So we're going to try and see how we would paint these. First thing I want to do is I'm gonna bring these on my canvas. Um, and then we're gonna have them here as examples of what we want to do, and then we are going to look at some multiple ways of trying to achieve this, because there's the first and most important thing is that there are more ways of doing it. For example, if I want to paint this tree, I can either try and sketch it out really quickly. I can try and pick up the shape of it, just kind of see what it looks like and get a general idea, general feeling of the shape and what this tree is about, and kind of see the bigger volumes in it, just really roughly and quickly trying to figure out a way of putting this and using it in my painting. Maybe grab some more details so that it doesn't just float in there, so it's actually more like a tree. Now this is one way to do it. The other way to do it is fairly similar, but in the same time it isn't, because for the second way I can try to uh, paint like the bigger shape just by blocking it in, um, regardless of details. So uh, so it doesn't really look like a tree, but I know it is, and this is really helpful in the early stages of my illustration, because I know that at some point I'm going to come back to it and start detailing, and it's going to look more like a tree, just erasing parts of it and whatever if it's necessary. But this can be like the outline, the shape of a tree, and I'm satisfied with it for now. Um, the other way to do it is to actually start picking colors and blocking colors in really quickly, just getting my main colors in and uh, putting them to work, if you can call it that way. This is interesting if you do really quick photo studies in which you decided that you are going to pick the colors in the original photos, um, as opposed to digital studies where you are trying to match the colors that are there. Because there's more types of studies and they're all really good for you. So this is another way to do it, just sketching it really quickly again, but having a kind of sense of the colors that are going to be used eventually in the painting. Um, this can be both good and bad, because it's good to have an early feeling of your colors, but at the same time you don't want it to limit your palette early on, because a large part of digital painting is just experimenting. So you don't want to cut yourself off from that uh, option. So this would be another way to do it. Now, uh, these are all just variants of the same tree in different approaches, but they serve the same purpose. which is to eventually render a tree. Now, if you want to go more into detail with this, you can try to use. Let's just use the sketch for example. Let's hide these two. Get the sketch over here. Let's blow it up just a little. I'm sorry. Oops. So the other way to do it is like trying to create a particular brush for your tree, for your leaves especially. And to do that, I'm going to try a really cheap, stupid trick. I'm going to go to the actual original picture and I'm going to pick a square where I'm kind of happy with what's going on, the contrast and everything. So I can try to use this area, and I will just Control C. I will just copy it. I will make a new file, which will give me the exact selection that I just made. Now I'm going to play with the levels, just blow it up really big, and get my contrast through the roof, trying to kind of get a somewhat distinct pattern or outline for some of the leaves. The other thing that I do is I take my saturation down because I don't want it to be a problem. I'm not really interested in the color. Now I see that the levels just don't look good enough for me, so I'm going to push them even more, trying to get a really rough black and white depiction of that. Now I'm going to select these and merge them. Control E to merge the selected layers. Now I'm just going to randomly just select the black bits, like with the magic wand, or I can try to use select color range and try to find my black areas, and then I'll lay down the fuzziness and then just delete the whole thing. What I do with this, it doesn't really make sense right now. What I do with it is I pick a brush and I just delete scarcely some of the areas. And to do this, you should use a more erratic kind of random brush, like if you have something like that in your brush set, just use something really random to delete some of the edges for this. I'm just going to do that really quickly because if I would use this as a brush as it is, I would have a square brush, which is something that I'm not interested into because I want an organic feeling to my brush, and I'm not going to delete all these little clusters of things. I want to keep them for my brush. So now I'm just going to go to Edit, Define Brush Preset, and hit OK. So this kind of gives me my brush right now, and I don't like it because I feel like I should erase a little more of this because it still has the feeling of a square, and I want to avoid that as much as possible. So just erasing frantically around here to get my feeling, to get the feeling of the square disappear. Now let's try again. Edit, Define Brush Preset. Alright, now this is looking a bit better. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to our painting, and our brush is already selected. I'm gonna make a new layer under my lines. I use Control Shift N to do that, or just the new layer button. And I'm going to pick my brush and play with the settings a bit because right now it looks like crap. So first of all, I'm going to, let's just make it a little smaller. First of all, I'm I'm gonna go to brush tip shape and lower the spacing for it, and then transfer, which is really important because you'll get your opacity jitter from it, and you definitely want that. Then I'll go to shape dynamics and I'll play around with the angle jitter. This makes the brush spin as you paint with it, so it gives it a bit more randomness to the brush. Then I'm going to go to scattering and I'm going to scatter it a little, not very much because then it becomes uncontrollable. Maybe up the count a little. This is a multiplier basically for your brush. If you take this really up, it will multiply your brush by a number of times. So I think 3 is actually too much. So maybe 2 will be good. 2 is good, I think. Ouch. So you can also play with the brush tip shape. You can flatten your brush. So I think now we're kind of starting to get into what we need for this. This is not a guaranteed result at all. So let's see what we got. Just to get that layer back. Now I'm just going to try and paint inside approximately inside of my initial lines, because I still want this to be kind of organic and natural looking. So I'm just going to play with this a little. And painting trees is not an easy task, and you can have as many wonder brushes as you want, but eventually you will have to get in there, zoom in, and work on some of the details, because otherwise it will look like a randomly generated brush, which is not something that you particularly might want. So I've increased the spacing for this brush because I wanted a bit more randomness in the leaves. Another great way to achieve this is to pick up the actual shape of a leaf and make a brush out of it. That always works, and there are plenty of brush sets out there that offer this option. And in the end, it really depends on the kind of look that you want to have for your painting. So now I'm kind of happy with what I've got here. I'm going to make another layer on top, below this painting, and I'm going to pick a simple round brush, which is basically my favorite brush in the whole world for some reason. Let's just ditch the lines a bit. This doesn't look very bad. It doesn't look really good, but it doesn't look really bad. So I'm kind of happy with that. Just gonna get my simple round brush and start getting in some of the color. I want to ditch my lines as fast as possible, because you can work with lines in 2 different ways. You can either keep them and make them useful for you, but that has to be a clear intention. If you are going for a line art oriented kind of painting, then it should be intended. And what I mean by that is that when you draw your lines, you can either be very careful or very not careful. And if you are very not careful, then you will probably eventually remove them completely and just have a more painterly kind of feeling. And if you choose to keep them, then you'll probably have to invest a little time and make them work. You know, I'm just picking the colors of this really crappy photo. I know I shouldn't because they're not really good, but I'll just settle for this exercise. Let's just get a backline in there, and it's water. Yeah, that's definitely it. I'm going really sloppy and really fast because I'm not really interested in the rest of the painting. I'm just interested in getting this tree looking pretty interesting. So now let's see what happens if I remove the lines. Now this is already starting to look a little better. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a layer on top of everything, and I'm going to zoom in a little more and get my colors and start just with my round brush, start adding a few more details, like just um, here and there. You know, don't overdo this step because this will definitely give a graphic feel to what you're painting. You can also achieve this by getting your round brush and just flatten it down. Oh god, stop spinning, Christ's sake. And then space it out a lot. Just flat it out really good. And then use scattering for it. And just some angle jitter. So let's see how this looks. Let's see how creepy it is. So there you go. This is like a really basic. You can use this as a leaf brush, I guess. I don't see why not. The thing is, just try to keep an eye on what you're painting from, if that is an option for you. Because in the same time, this could be you can go against your reference as a design decision, or you can work with your reference. It depends on whether you are making a realistic study, or whether you are building a concept and you use your reference just to get a quick feel of what things look like. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play a little with the colors. I keep my color window on hue saturation balance because it helps me to really quickly balance things, make them dark and saturate them, or desaturate them. I'm going to go a little darker and a little more saturated, and I'm not really pleased by this. Yeah, I'm getting a more crude kind of green here and there. Just there is a lot of color variation in trees. There is a lot of color variation in everything, and people oftentimes forget this. And the result is that it just doesn't look realistic enough. And a lot of things happen with color and light, and there is just an amazing amount of color in even the darkest kind of places, the darkest areas in a painting, or in a photograph, or in real life. So trying to keep that in mind is really useful, because you want to get as much color variation as possible, even if it's a graphic type of decision, and it may not be useful for a realistic painting, but it will give you the advantage of using color the proper way, I guess. What I'm doing now is I'm just refining. I'm not switching from this brush anymore, because I like the look of it. And I think this will make a decent tree eventually. The next thing that I want to do, and for that I want to save this brush. What I want to do now is let's just save this brush for a second. Alright, saved. What I want to do is I want to erase. I want to use the same brush as an eraser, but I'm going to merge these two layers, the ones with the trees, just merge them together. So I only have one layer with the entire. Let's not be lazy. I'm just gonna paint the sky a little. Yeah, I know. So now I have my crown here, and what I want to do is I want to erase, and I want to use this brush, because there, as you can see, for a realistic tree you have a lot of small spaces here and there, because the leaves aren't fully opaque, and you can always see just a little bit of sky behind them. Again, this is a step that I wouldn't personally overdo. Now I'm going to try and fix the shape of the actual tree a little by using the same brush. Just making it kind of big here. I'm trying to be careful because this is a really quick way to destroy your painting, I guess. Just want to get rid of all this junk. So I'm going back to my round brush and just going a bit closer to the outline, removing some of this. Because it's a pain. It's a really pain to try and erase stuff with a really erratical kind of brush like this one, for instance. So now I'm just going back and I'm working a little on my outline for this tree, and this is a two-way kind of movement, because you go back and forth between erasing and painting. You erase and you get a really rough kind of edge around it by using this type of brush, but then you just pick the brush again and you paint on top of what you erased to try and fix it. Like now I'm just gonna take the brush again and just kind of make it look less ridiculous, I hope. I have a terrible cold. I was hoping to escape it, but I didn't, and it's going to get me eventually. It's already got me, I think. Still keeping my hopes up. I can work around it somehow. So yeah, it's not the same tree, but it's a tree. So I guess this tutorial is about kind of painting a tree. You can go back and forth between the eraser and the brush and keep doing this step until you are satisfied with the way your shape of the tree looks. And from this point forth, you can just keep painting and refining things for hours on end if you so wish. I'm just gonna erase a bit more of this. I'm just gonna make a layer on top and try to paint with a simple round brush again. Sorry, I'm far too obsessed with the simple round brush, but I think it's just one of the most effective brushes ever. Just trying to get this. It's saturated, lower the balance. Try and get some branches in there. Just peeking from time to time to the original tree, just because I like it. Now, let's see. So this will give you this type of work will give you maybe not extremely high-end results, but I think it's a quick way to paint a decent looking tree, without too much effort, I think. And don't get me wrong, effort is good. Effort is really good in painting, and sometimes you have to push yourself, but other times you just don't have the time to. So using techniques like this can just help boost your speed for those really tight deadlines. Play around with the branches. Don't forget the branches. Just I like getting just some of the branches out just a little bit. It's helpful, I think, and make them kind of, you can kind of see them through the leaves most of the time. Also, we have already noticed that our light source is this way, so we can make a cheap trick. Let's just pick the color from the light, from the lit area of the bark, I guess, and then just kind of add a little light on the branches here and there, like the sun is kind of hitting it, and you can see just a little light on some of the branches that get into direct sunlight. And that's another neat trick, because you can also do this kind of light in the tree. Now this tree doesn't look like it has rare leaves, but it's still interesting to use, because that's kind of what the light usually looks like for a tree. You never get a really clear light. You just, most of the time, it's broken by the leaves. So that's interesting to use, and it gives a bit more realistic feel to it, I guess. So I'm pretty happy with my tree now, and I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you soon with doing this guy.